Hi, good people. Welcome to Vambo AI in Africa, a podcast that highlights many things that are happening in the African space around technology, innovation, and of course, AI. My name is Linah Kitala. I am the community lead at Vambo AI. And today I have an amazing guest. We have an inside joke with him. So when I say forget you, he knows what I'm saying, you know? But I want to welcome to the podcast Dr. Churchill Saoke, named after a very cool person. If you don't know who Churchill Winston is, I don't know where you are living. Karibu sana daktari.
Yes. Thank you very much, Erin.
Why are you not saying forget you too?
Well, I'm going to say forget you, and I'm going to add that many people ask my mom how they came to give me the name Churchill. It's amazing, right?
They don't know.
No,
they don't know that your mom had a hint of how history works, and she was like, my son is going to be an important person.
But let me tell you, there is something much more interesting about it. It's way more interesting. That's a story for some other day.
Another day.
Yes.
We'll have that conversation maybe before we do the next sequel to this conversation. Maybe you can introduce yourself to the audience. I know you are a lover of renewable energy and you are an expert in it. You're a lecturer in physics, and you are also, like, in the lecturing, you are a JQuat. So maybe share a little bit more about yourself.
Thanks a lot, Linah. And it's amazing to be here, and also thanks for hosting me. So my name is Dr. Churchill Saoke. I am a lecturer, a researcher, and a consultant in renewable energy space. I lecture at the Department of Physics of JKUAT. And I've got a very vast experience in development in the renewable energy space, with very keen interest in accelerating renewable energies. It's a huge thing now. And so beyond that, I'm also hugely engaged in issues around youth development and just trying to create youth resilience programs that bring youth resilience through entrepreneurship and things like that, and entrenching technology in our continent. Leadership, very key on. So those are some of the key things that keep me going every day.
Awesome. So for our audience who may not know JQuat, what it stands for, and they're thinking, people.
JQuat is the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. It's one of the public universities here in Kenya. With a very strong niche in engineering, technology, science, agriculture. And we're one of the universities that initially drove the IT when it information technology when it started. So that's what JQuat is, and that's where I'm domiciled as a member of the faculty. Beyond that, I also have affiliations with other private institutions. I do quite some work and project works with Strathmore University on undergraduate capacity. So that is ideally what keeps me going as a researcher.
Awesome. So I want us to have a conversation about the institutions of higher learning and their role in being catalysts to innovation. And I would want us to start with, why is innovation important, first and foremost?
I think innovation is very important because, when you look back into time, we've always been creating a better world or a better earth that people can live in. And this is the core reason why research brings what gives meaning to research, because you want new things, you want to discover truths that people have not discovered. In discovering truths through research, you will come up with the new ideas. And these new ideas is what ends up being innovations that make human life either improve good or human life, the problems that humans are facing are solved. So innovation is very key to our day-to-day life, because it helps us to solve problems. It helps us to get to know truths that we do not know, and it exposes us to deep deep things that humanity may not have really seen. Yeah, so you look at electricity that is powering everything that we do here. It's all innovation. You look at what is now the key trends that Vambo AI is known for, the artificial intelligence. These are innovations that are informing everything that the human person, how the human person behaves, what we consume. Everything around us is around innovation.
I like how you said innovation helps us to solve problems.
Yes.
And I equally believe that the reason why people should go to, like, a big part of going to university is to help you become a thinker, not necessarily to pass exams, which is a good thing. You should pass your exams, people, but it also broadens your capacity to like think deeper concerning issues, especially like now that you have like a niche area that you go to study while you go to university. So what is that intersection? Like, how does that then morph, or how does that look like when now we are speaking higher institutions of higher learning, innovation, and creating an intersection?
One of the things that I mention, and I speak this a lot to many of the young people I interact with, those who I mentor, those who I teach, is that the institution of higher learning is to expose you to knowledge. And the idea of it exposing you to knowledge is for you to be able to critically analyze issues, analyze problems, and create solutions. The knowledge is meant to expose you to possible solutions. And it's upon you to interrogate situations around you and see how you can apply the knowledge that you have gained and critically analyze the circumstances with the knowledge and use that knowledge to create a solution. Critical thinking therefore becomes very, very crucial, because without critical thinking, you cannot be able to know that in darkness you need light. You cannot be able to know that for you to travel from here to Kisumu on foot, it's not possible to travel in one day. You need something that will run faster than walking. It's critical thinking that will make you to do that. And it is critical thinking that will also be able to help you to see that in bringing light, you need to study how an electron moves in a wire. Or if in moving faster from Nairobi to Kisumu, you need to know how do you create a mechanical system that will move faster than a human being. So I think it is important for young people and students to know that there is a very close intersection of what you do in class and how what you do in class integrates with the realities of the problems that we face in society. So the moment you look at them separately and see yourself as, in class I want to pass exam, and outside I want to solve problems, the moment you look at them separately, then you don't know why you're going to school.
So it's obvious that it's important for someone who is pursuing higher education to understand that you will not start solving these problems once you graduate, but as you go through your coursework and as you learn, you are actually getting the muscle to become a problem solver at the end of your course, and even as you graduate, right? We are told, we bestow in thee the power to go and
and you are always, apparently whenever you're graduating, you're always given power to read. Because it's a whole journey, it's a whole process that begins right from the time you start your schooling all through your entire life. You're always a student.
Asante sana daktari for that answer. So now my other question is, where does what the student learn or the coursework that they are offered in university and innovation like gel? How can the student then use the coursework to get to a place of innovating while doing their coursework in school and even after graduating?
So one of the things that I have seen work is one, the students, not just the experiential learning within the institutions, but their exposure into the workplace. And when they get their exposure into the actual workplace and they see some of the problems that people are facing, they are able to then fall back and think of how can they be able to solve these problems. One of my students, who was one of my very amazing students, and was very good in programming, was able to, he was good in hardware programming, and he went into an attachment in one of these organizations, and he found that he got a niche of what he could do there, and he developed a program that was able to help tractors to help farmers to track tractors, and they be able to access for agricultural use in the rural areas, the Halo tractor. That ended up being one of the key innovations that actually, when the king was here, they visited. So, and it emerged because this student was able to expose himself into the realities with the communities. You go into the communities and you see what people are facing and ask yourself, what can you be able to do? And many times I emphasize even to our students that there is need to go out there and see what are people doing, not just in companies, but in societies, in communities. Go and see what people are doing there and see what can you be able to recreate. What can you be able to innovate for them? Because that is the reason why you're going to school. And I think that when you do that, you'll be able, they end up getting a lot of value. Because, many times most of the people go into the institution, they think that, or institutions of higher learning, they think that, once I graduate, let me just go and get a job with Vambo AI and help Vambo AI be a good company.
Yeah.
But Vambo AI wants to solve community problems. So unless you have understanding of what the communities are facing, you cannot be able to help communities. So that's one of the ways in which they can be able to integrate, understanding the problems of communities, understanding the problems of organizations, and using your knowledge and your skills to solve them.
It's quite interesting. There's something you've mentioned, and I remember I was in a different setting with having conversations with different people.
Yeah.
And one of the things that emerged in that conversation was how people who are graduating and getting into the labor force or into the job market are not well skilled for the kind of jobs that they're applying for. And I think what you have mentioned about people actually taking time to, from the get-go onset, understand the problems that you are in class learning about. Yes, you are receiving theory, but at the end of the day, this theory has to translate into solutions for whichever niche area that you're learning. So it's quite interesting that the labor force or the job market, as you've said, Vambo AI doesn't want to come and retrain you on how to do the kind of work you're coming to do, but we want you to be integrated to actually oil the engine to work more effective and create better solutions than the ones that we have at the moment.
Exactly.
So with that trajectory, then how does the condition or the atmosphere within the learning institutions assist or aid the student to get to that this is how I'm meant to look at my journey while I'm in school or while I'm in university?
The one thing I have seen is mentorship beyond class. Engaging in extracurricular activities that exposes you to problems. And I have personally seen students become better when they are attached to people who have gone ahead, and it gives them newer perspectives of thinking. It opens for them pathways of newer journeys, or pathways of journeys that somebody just to keep you track. And one of the things that I often say is that it is one thing to follow the timetable that institutions of higher learning give you. That will help you get your certificate. But the other things that you do beyond the timetable define your life in a way, way bigger way. Because they are what make you to meet newer people. They are what exposes you to tougher problems that make you to see that you're actually resilient and stronger than you know yourself. In other words, it takes you through a newer journey of discovery. It also exposes you, brings you newer exposures to newer circumstances. So I think that one of the things that I would advise young people and students is that challenge yourself the moment you get into an institution of higher learning. Challenge yourself to be able to get to do something beyond what is in class. And be deliberate. Be deliberate to want to have a mentor within or without the university. You will find that much, much more valuable, because institutions will create for you. And one of the other thing that is realities of education, and this is not just in Kenya, it's also outside. It's the structured, granular way of education. It does not create good time that can make you to get everything you want. But over and above that personalized mentorship, the other thing that institutions of higher learning could adopt, and I see a number of other institutions already adopting them, is creating centers that could be able to create environments that accelerate newer ideas. Like incubation centers, like sandboxes, and things like that. These are spaces that students could be able to use as areas to nurture their ideas from nascent stages to the point where they pick up and take off. They will also become spaces that can be able to help. They can be able to help even other organizations that are interested in partnering with institutions of higher learning to come and partner in a corporate way to help students who have got greater ideas that they might want to start up and then nurture them up into startups. The other third thing that could be useful for institutions of higher learning, and I have seen this happening with professors, is both within some professors within, and also even it happens a lot in the developed world, is professors who have got their own laboratories that are get funding, and this funding are the funding they get, they collaborate maybe with the industries or with other universities outside or development partners, and they do cutting edge researches that inform policy, that inform they inform policy, they inform technological transfer and things like that. So these are ways that I think in the long run those kind of labs can also be used even to help students who are interested in doing further research or furthering their studies to also proceed on. So I think those are three key areas that could be very useful in helping institutions at the corporate level and also at the individual level to advance themselves.
That's very, 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 very interesting. And we're not talking about labs where mice run in that.
Where what are learning?
No,
Come again?
The hamster, where the hamster runs in the wheel.
I know,
you can say a lab and people are thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be put into slavery and run like a hamster.
No. That's an interesting one. That's
Anyway, there's something you've said that in every room I've been in for a couple of months, I've been hearing the same sentiment coming from especially professors and people who are in institutions of higher learning when we are talking about data, because in artificial intelligence, data is king.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
In other spaces, people say customer is king.
Yes.
In AI, data is king.
Data is the customer. I know.
And the conversation has been the role of R&D, research development. So you've mentioned how the institutions creating hubs and professors also having their own spaces where R&D can happen.
Yes.
So how pivotal is R&D?
It's very important, Linah, because as you have mentioned, that data is key in artificial intelligence. And much of this data will have to be informed by very concrete research, very concrete work, data-driven research that have been, that is well informed by scientific theory and scientific truths. Because if we don't do that, we are going to create our own world. Exactly. If we don't ensure that our data is one that is based on scientific truth, then we are going to create a new earth that we can't live on. So it is important. So the significance of generating new data that is based on scientific truth is very important. And as you are aware, this is your space. I mean, artificial intelligence is going, it's affecting every sector, every space, every subject area. So it means that whether you're a professor in food technology, in agriculture, in engineering, in science and technology, in renewable, in whatever space, in medical, whatever, diagnostics and things like that, the data in that space will be very key in informing artificial intelligence, and that data has to be one that is informed. And I still emphasize, it has to be one that is informed by scientific truth. Otherwise, you're going to teach the machines wrong language.
They will hallucinate a lot. They'll be like, Mayday, not understanding.
You can imagine when we teach the machines to diagnose malaria and instead they diagnose another disease.
True.
It's going to be something else.
And someone ends up being diagnosed with, let's say, typhoid, and yet that's not what was their illness.
They recommend a medicine there, you're going to die the next day. So it has to really to be based on scientific truths, and that is very important. And that is why I think the whole concept of research and development is very important, because the research and development helps us to get data that is well informed. And this data is what will be very helpful in continually updating and continually informing the AI space, that then continually helps inform other things or other outputs that AI influences. Because remember that there are AI users who have no interest in knowing the finer details of the theory. They just want the outputs.
True.
So it means that if the inputs are wrong, the outputs are extremely wrong. They are not just wrong. They are extremely
ungovernable. Extremely ungovernable.
They're extremely ungovernable. So, and the result is one that you can't imagine.
So, Dr. We've mentioned it here and there, slides, we've slid in the DMs of this thing, but now let's talk about it.
Yes.
So AI is here. How ready are institutions of higher learning?
I think the institutions of higher learning they really have been trying to. There's been a lot happening on the ground, and there's continuous adoption of the use of the need to use AI in many ways, and I want to deep dive into the research, into the various researchers. For example, you realize that, for example, even in the renewable energy space, you will find that the need to make some of these technologies much more efficient and produce better results. There has been realization that there's need for research or need for incorporation of AI into control systems. And these control systems require data, for example, in solar PV, optimization of their operation based on variation of irradiance, or for example wind speeds, the variation of wind speeds. How do you leverage on data to ensure that these variations, for example, ends up not affecting the power outputs of some of these systems? Fault detections, you realize that diagnostics and the need to use data and AI to diagnose systems, their faults, and ensure that these systems are operating optimally. So I think this realization is really at the research level. It's real, and many researchers are now getting into the need to train machines to be able to diagnose these things way earlier, the need for machines to be able to learn, for example, these variations and give better recommendations as fast as possible, so that there are no changes that hugely affect system system operations and things like that. So there's quite a lot of realization of AI in research level, and beyond that, even in other spaces. I would tell you, in, like, for example, in my space, again, battery management has been a big problem. There's now a lot of adoption of AI in battery management systems, battery management softwares, and through that, still data is still being collected, and the data is being used to make the machines learn, and the machines learning is helping to generate much more efficient recommendations that make the systems way more efficient and better in operation.
Now, if I was a student, and that student who will be watching, and I've sat here and I've heard you say batteries are learning to be
not batteries.
That in through building of machines and equipment, they're getting smarter using data and information that is being fed on a daily basis to make some of the things we use on a day-to-day way efficient, work better, and cut on time wastage and all that. So for someone who is in an institution of higher learning, and they're thinking, so why am I seated in class for 3 hours, 4 hours if there's the machines
this thing is gonna learn. This thing is gonna learn.
Exactly. So does that mean that there's no reason for someone to pursue a particular field of education because AI is out here and it's gonna get you a job?
Well, I don't think so, because I think just the same way you train, just the same way I would train a child, and the child becomes smarter than the teacher. It does not mean that the teacher becomes less useful. The teacher just needs to get down to the teacher. The teacher just needs to get down to the student and get to know what the student learn. So that as he learns what the students now know that he didn't know, he's also learning and getting to know how to make the student learn better. So it's a continuous process. It's a continuous process that I do not know. If you ask me where it is ending, I have no idea.
You just know it's here.
Exactly. Because we are teaching the machines. The machines are learning. We will be learning from them. And we learn from them. And we teach them what they do not know from what they have learned. And we continue and continue and continue and continue.
True.
The end, we have no idea.
Well, so basically what you're saying is students should not shy away or think they're doomed because AI is here, but just learn how to integrate their learning journey with what AI is doing in their fields of expertise, and then mix up your training and your expertise with both AI and what you are learning on a day-to-day during your coursework.
Exactly. So it's a continuous learning. Yeah, you learn, relearn and learn, relearn and relearn, and continually learn. Yeah.
You see, Dr. Churchill is very smart, eh? I've picked it. He's like a teacher and a student. He's like, I'm not gonna my journey in the profession of equipping students has taught me this lesson that can be utilized in AI, which is
and I have
true.
Trust you me, Linah, I have seen that in my own journey. I have seen some of my students go out there, learn things that even in some of the areas that I taught them become better, and they teach me. And in the long run, as they teach me, I tell them, how about you do this like this? So in the long run, she is teaching me, I'm teaching, and we are continually going. So I think somehow this is it's gonna be a technological push that will push us to want to know more and more and more and more, so that we get to the level. Otherwise, if we don't, trust you me, the machines are going to create their own world. They're gonna walk and talk a language we don't understand. They will be having another. How many languages do we have in Kenya, for example?
So I think the last time we were
40. We are 40. How many? 40 what?
40.
We are 47. We have 47 languages. 48. So we must be wary of a 40-something language in Kenya
Called AI.
called AI, and you got robots that understand each other. They understand the environment way more than other people, and now it could be another tribe. And if it
A
is
tribe
another,
of machines.
and if it is another tribe of machines, we then need to be wary of the other bigger picture. It could be another political movement
Bigger than our own.
So we will be having a president that is.
But let's not laugh. It might actually be a reality. We used to talk about. Okay, you even think about it logically. The people who never saw planes before the Wright brothers came to existence and thought about we need to fly. Ships were the thing.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like being a navigator and a sailor was the big thing.
Exactly.
And then now, all of a sudden, ships were, yes, a big thing, but not a big thing. Like we have a more efficient, faster, better way of getting people across the continents and across territories, like airplanes. And maybe the people who had never heard about planes before will think like the Wright brothers are crazy.
They were crazy, right?
How will this thing happen? But now it's like you think about there not being a flight from one point of even Kenya itself, leave alone Kenya to Africa. There are people who think this is dreadful.
Exactly.
So it's true. We may not know to what dimension or extent AI can grow and facilitate life, but we cannot assume that it cannot get to a particular level.
Exactly. And by the way, it might be important for perhaps even beyond the institutions of higher learning. There is need even at the government level to begin to think about policy and regulations, because it's significant, because one of the key roles of government is to ensure security and territorial integrity of the country. And if they're not prepared on the regulations that they might need to bring in or put in place, I don't know how, I'm just thinking, they might be caught barefoot when it's too late, when they're realizing this thing has pushed us to this level that we don't even have control.
I thank you for getting to that place, because my other question then was like, how then does the space of an ecosystem, like we have institutions of higher learning paving innovations, you are adapting to the AI and integrating it into creating people who will be ready for the workforce, but then how then do we pan with the rest of the ecosystems? You've talked about government and policy, which is a big thing, and most governments are working towards AI policies. Like currently, the Kenyan government is working towards having an AI policy in Kenya. Countries like South Africa, Rwanda are also big. Senegal, they're also working on policies to just ensure that this space is regulated. But I had someone say, unfortunately, law catches up to innovation and not the other way around. Yes. Like someone innovates and then you're like, where does law regulate this innovation? So how then, apart from government, who else is an ecosystem helper to allow higher institutions to truly be spaces where innovation are groomed and can act as institutions of higher learning, acting as catalysts for innovation?
I think some of the other biggest catalysts other than government will be the private sector, because the private sector are the consumers of some of these things, and so I think leveraging a strong relationship with the industry will be very key, because then you are able to customize needs of industry in research, for example, and work with academia to generate required data that can be able to be useful in informing the AI space. So the industry are very key players in this. Of course, the other very important thing is the civil society organizations, and I mention this because of stakeholder awareness. This is a pretty elitist area, and many people might not, a big percentage of the population might not understand really what it is about and how can it be useful to us. For example, you look at maybe some community somewhere in a village in far east or far west or far south or far north. So I think stakeholder awareness and continuous capacity building and training will be very crucial in making some key sections of the populace to understand that this is something new that is with us here, and this is how we can leverage on it. This is how it can help you to solve some of the problems you're facing, and this is how you might need to safeguard some of the dangers you might face while using it. This is the government's expectations of it. These are the best practices of the best practices from other jurisdictions. So I think the CSOs will be very key. Of course, some of them might want to resist. It's normal, but for me, I think that that stakeholder capacity building will also be very useful.
It's quite interesting that sometimes innovators innovate for people, but don't have a way of allowing those people to understand the innovation. Don't know if
yes, I understand you. I understand you.
Wanipatanga.
I understand you.
Get me?
I understand you.
Oh, that's
they are up there. People are down here.
Exactly.
I get you.
So it's very interesting that you bring about there being public awareness and people actually being made to understand that this thing is here. It can aid you or help you to live life better this way.
Yes.
Because I was reading one of the reports by Africa Development Bank, and they were saying how countries within Africa, Kenya being included, were very resistant to AI. Like if you mention artificial intelligence, they're like, we don't want it. We have lived our best life without this thing. Actually, we've heard it's coming to rob some of us of our incomes. So nah. But I think if you make people understand that the perception you have to some degree needs the research and development. Let's use that. Let's use R&D to prove how it may not, if you figure out how to best use it, life may not actually look as dreadful as you imagine it to be if you adapt into this thing. Because I totally feel like one of the things that is there with AI or with the coming of AI is resistance. People are doing a revolution, a resistance of their own kind with what's coming, with what's coming within with AI. But I've also come to learn that if you resist something that has more power than you, it will end up taking over, and now you'll have completely no say in how this thing governs your life or affects your life. Anyhow, those are just my sentiments. Speaking out loud.
and actually, that is what technology push has done in many ways, even before. You look at many of the companies, even the global conglomerates who are resistant to certain technological changes. They ended up being phased out of the market. They ended up being phased, completely, So I think there are sometimes in development phases, global development phases that nations must take very key drastic steps to ensure that or not just nations, even companies and organizations must take very key, concrete, deliberate decisions to see how can they be able to adopt newer technologies that are pushing in, so that they are part and parcel of the process, or else if not, they become completely out. And I have seen that even happening with many, even other than conglomerates, even
You're declared persona non grata.
Exactly. So,
Yeah, but it's actually true to some extent. I was reading an article and they were saying how like the race in AI, currently where there was the race to the moon.
yeah.
And now there is the race to AI, and there are two big wigs going after it, with the US and China. Like someone wants to land and put their flag
Yes,
on AI.
yeah, exactly. Right.
But someone was, in an article, someone mentioned, why is Germany not in this race? Yet in a particular era of innovation and coming up with the things that were standard will come from Germany that like were big within like the electronic systems, cars, in production of cars and all that. But why are we not hearing AI, Germany having a race when it comes to AI? Like where were they lost? where did they not pay attention to a race that? Anyway, that's a discussion for another day. You've just mentioned conglomerates, and I was like, yeah, by the way, this thing was mentioned somewhere. Sorry.
Yes.
My mic is trying to be microphone,
It's
my hand is
it's picking data.
it's picking data. It's like optimize.
Yes, it's picking the data from your color scheme. So the
Imagine.
next time you're gonna try to do get your
Or
biography.
it's Jared behind the scenes trying to get data. Chini ya maji. Anyway, so then here comes me trying for us to get to the end of this conversation. Tunaambiwa hayawi mwishowe huwa. But then I want us to like ponder or think about in the next 2030, but the year we're getting to 2030, 5 years from now, according to the UN, they've said that the greatest workforce is going to be an African workforce. Like we are getting ready for the globe to see that for the majority of the workforce to be based in Africa, starting 2030, going to 2050 and beyond. But that span from 2030, we'll start seeing the numbers like really erupt. So how then do we make our institutions of higher learning ready to churn out that global workforce? Because believe you me, it will not only be needed within Africa, but even outside Africa. So how do we make someone who is at JKUAT right now studying something, but will end up 10 years from now, 5 years from now, finding themselves working, let's say, in Hungary or Estonia. And in Estonia, right now, as we speak, most of their government services and everything they do as a country is digitized. When you come to Kenya, that's not the case. Or in African countries, like we haven't digitized everything. We're in the process, but we're not yet there compared to like Estonia. So how then do we make this? How then do we create our institutions of higher learning to be ready to release graduates who are workforce ready to become this great workforce that the globe is waiting for in an AI world?
I wanna answer that question by looking at the entire population instead, and say that I think it's important for us to very much emphasize on technical skills even before students reach institutions of higher learning. When
Let
you
me
look
cut you short. When you say technical skills, what do you mean? Kuna, there's a parent.
Yes.
I almost spoke in a Vambo AI intelligence, but
Yes.
was coming. Then I remembered our audience. So there's a parent somewhere
Yes.
who's like, what do you mean technical skills?
So the technical skills, I mean the skills that leverage on your motor. Your motor skills, your ability,
Professor
your-
of physics.
your
Now you're going to motors.
your ability to use your hands to make something and do something with it.
Thank you, because some of us dropped physics like
Right?
some few years ago. So when you say motor
Yes.
skills, someone
Yes.
is like, do you mean me having a motor car? You know, like a car to drive.
Exactly. So I think there is need a sort of, when I look at the government, when I read the government's mind, they've really been wanting to adopt that, where we have a big population, better part of the population of our students being equipped with technical skills in engineering, technical skills in IT or computers, technical skills in all forms of, could be craft or things like that. So that by the time somebody even finishes an intermediary, she is able to use his hands to make something. And I think that when you look at the advanced countries, Germany, China, Japan, that's what they did, even in the Asian tigers. And a small population go to the universities. Because ideally, the universities is not meant for everybody. The problem we made, for example, was to ensure that everybody goes to the university. And we made it that when you go for you to get a job, you must have gone to the university. That was wrong. The university is meant for people who are only supposed to think for the country.
Don't come with daggers looking for Professor Church. Who is that somebody? But it's when you think about it, like in Kenya, there were so many technical institutions, different polytechnics that used to aid. Like you don't have to go to the university to acquire a particular skill. You can go to a technical institution. It can give you a skill you need, and perhaps in the latter days of your education, then you can find yourself in the university if you choose to pursue that way.
The problem was that we made these polytechnics not to become prestigious, and created a perception that all brilliant people are going to the universities. Right? Then what we did is that some of the courses that should not even have been in the universities, we ended having them there. So people go there, they don't go getting the technical skills, because the technical skills, they would have better gotten them at the lower level. All right?
Yeah.
If you go to do mass communication in the university, why go do it there if Kenya Institute of Mass Communication will give you a better degree in it? So that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. So if we are able to strengthen our intermediary institutions and make them more prestigious enough to make our people know that if you go to a polytechnic, for example, your degree or your certificate there should land you even a better job, just as someone who has gone to a university. Then we will be building a very huge scale-based population. And because the university is there, but it cannot accommodate, even if we build, remember, for example, to train somebody in engineering, you know the amount of money it needs? The labs that are required, it's huge. You need to equip the labs. It's a pretty expensive thing. And you cannot be able to afford better training if, for example, you have the entire population wanting to go do engineering at the university level. You'll not get the skilled workforce that you need. So I think that's one of the things that really need to be done. Need to be done at for our countries. And if I was sitting at the position where I am able to influence education, maybe that is the direction that even the CBC needs to needs to be implemented towards, so that we ensure there is a very big population within the polytechnic and the intermediary college level, and a very slim at the university level, so that the bigger population of the people who go at the technical institutions are the ones who inform the development of the country, so that we can be able to have products that we can use to go out there and negotiate negotiate for countries. I have personally seen in some of the researches that I have done, many people who have, for example, gone to institutions of higher learning, they'll know the why, but they might not know the how. The how will be known by people who have gone to the colleges.
Intermediate.
And I am telling you, if you bring these two people together, what comes out is huge. When I, for example, go, and I used to go, for example, in Kariobangi when I'm making some of my products, in research products, and I tell them, I want you to do this, 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 and this. They will even give me a better way of doing it, a better way of getting my results. But they do not know what I'm making. They have no idea of what I'm making. In the long run, I end up making what I wanted to make way better, because I know the why, they know the how.
Awesome. And with that, unfortunately, we have to come to the end of this conversation. Thank you so much, Dr. Churchill. It was really amazing having you and having this converse. I think my takeaway is, let's build on our R&D, and then let's build the muscle of not only our universities, but our technical institutions, to have a better workforce coming out. I like how you said it. They know the how, and you have the why. And when those two come together, then amazing things can happen. It's been really awesome being your host today. Kindly continue watching Vambo AI in Africa as we share amazing stories of what's happening within the continent. And until next time, bye.